6 Minutes starts now.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. ISIS could ruin your vacation. The State Department warning Americans about traveling to Europe. Fox's Rachel Sutherland details the alert live in Washington.
Dave, there's no specific threat, but the State Department did issue a travel warning for Europe through the summer. This is the fourth travel alert for Europe this year, with the State Department citing attacks in Russia, France, Sweden, and Britain. In the alert, the department said extremists continue to focus on tourist locations, transportation hubs, markets, shopping malls, and local government facilities as viable targets. Dave?
Rachel, President Trump has said U.S.-Russian relations may be at an all-time low, and today he'll talk to Russian President Putin by phone. Russia was critical of the U.S. missile strike on a Syrian airbase. Could President Trump at some point hold talks with North Korea's leader?
China's foreign ministry urging Washington to make contact with Pyongyang and begin taking steps toward peace. This after President Trump said he would be, quote, honored to meet with Kim Jong-un under the right conditions. South Korea today saying the North has not met those preconditions, but the door to dialogue remains open. In the Asia Bureau, Alistair Wanklin, Fox News.
A happy ending written after midnight averts a Writers Guild strike, which would have affected TV and movies and forced late-night talk shows to air reruns. They reached a tentative 3-year agreement early this morning. There were May Day marches and rallies across America, pro-immigrant, anti-Trump. And that one in Portland, Oregon turned into a riot. Protesters set fires, smashed windows, threw things at police who fired tear gas and made a few dozen arrests. Who nailed a man to a tree? Police are trying to figure that out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. City cleanup crews heard that man crying, found nails through both of his hands into that tree, shocked people along the bike and walking trail where it happened.
I come out here quite regularly, 2 to 3 times a week, and I've never seen anything like that.
Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
ADT presents What to Consider When Considering Home Security. An ADT sign is more than a sign. It's a line in the sand. On one side, your family. On the other, an uncertain world.
For over 140 years, more people have chosen ADT to help prevent crime than anyone else. Get ADT starting at just $28.99 a month.
Tested, trusted, proven ADT.
With 36-month contract for licensing and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Summer involves a lot of driving, to camp, to work, to soccer, back home to grab what they forgot, and then back to soccer again. So wouldn't you like to know your car is up for it? Enter Hum by Verizon. Now you can check your car's health from your phone with vehicle diagnostics, drive with more peace of mind thanks to 24/7 emergency assistance, and let the kids stream and game on the go with your car's own Wi-Fi hotspot. Get Hum and get where you're going. Learn more at hum.com. Verizon Wi-Fi available on HumX only. Data usage applies. Coverage not available everywhere. Visit vzw.com for availability.
The No Pay May protests on New Jersey Transit never really materialized on Monday. Most commuters just resigned to paying for bad service, but we did hear from a number of commuters that conductors just weren't checking tickets and monthly passes on overcrowding trains. Jimmy Kimmel says his newborn son is home and doing great after open-heart surgery. It was a tearful Kimmel who turned last night's monologue into an emotional recounting of the crisis he told viewers had a happy ending. U.S. Senator Bob Menendez says an executive order signed by President Trump would allow oil companies to operate in the Atlantic Ocean. Menendez claims the order violates regulations created by the Obama administration banning drilling in the region for 5 years.
Now, I'm no mathematician, but I never expected we would be revisiting the 5-year plan 6 months later.
Governor Christie has conditionally vetoed a bill aimed at getting President Trump to release his tax returns, calling it a transparent political stunt. Christie also called the bill unconstitutional. It would have prohibited any candidate from appearing on the ballot in New Jersey that didn't release their returns. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
My name is Vanessa Vitolo, and it's not easy for me to sit here and tell you my deepest, darkest secret. I got hurt and was given painkillers. By the time the drugs ran out, I was addicted. I turned to the streets where the drugs to feed my addiction were cheaper and easier to get. There wasn't a day that went by that I didn't wish that I couldn't just stop getting high. I couldn't dream of a day where I would wake up with hope or love in my heart, and today I did that. I was a full-blown heroin addict, but I got help, and you can too. Addiction is a disease. You are not alone. Help is within reach.
This is Governor Chris Christie. Vanessa got help. You can too. If you're struggling with addiction, supporting someone who is, or just don't know where else to turn, help is just a call or a click away. Call 844-REACH-NJ or visit reachnj.gov. Don't suffer. Don't wait. 844-REACH-NJ or visit reachnj.gov. The road to recovery starts now.
A cold front will sweep out any residual showers and usher in mostly sunny skies by later this morning. It's going to be pretty windy today, gusts to 40 miles an hour, high temperatures around 70 degrees. Breezy and cool tonight, mostly clear, lows near 50. Sun and clouds tomorrow and still a bit windy, noticeably cooler, highs lower to mid-60s. Renting your first apartment, be prepared and live happy with Franklin Mutual Insurance. Cover your belongings and get up to $1 million in liability coverage. Find an agent near you at fmiweb.com. Franklin Mutual Insurance, for the way you live. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hey, thanks very much. Welcome back. This portion of Hurley in the Morning presented by Chuck Malamut, our official financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program for the past 26 years. Chuck is the managing director. He leads his team's effort, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. To reach Chuck for all of your financial planning needs, dial 609-383-2010. The program that you're about to listen to is presented by Chuck, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, we have been having a blast this morning.
Good morning, Harry.
So much
Kirk.
fun.
So my fondest memories of wrestling.
Well, you got to tell the fact that you became really close with one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
Chief Jay Strongbow is a very good friend of ours. It was actually his uncle. And I remember going, I would just sit for hours listening to their stories about how they traveled together and Bruno Sammartino. And I can't repeat what he told us, but I can tell you, Harry, that I remember going into Atlantic City for dinner at the Tropicana, and unfortunately Chief, and we referred to him as Uncle Luke, actually couldn't. He was getting older, and unfortunately, as you know, he's since passed away. He couldn't walk very well, so I remember getting one of the rolling chairs, and we went up to the pier. And the rolling chair, operator was. It took him about 90 seconds, and he processed the information. He goes, "I'm pushing Chief Jay Strongbow, aren't I?" I said, "Well, yeah." The guy. All he wanted was an autograph. It was amazing. He hasn't wrestled in
doesn't matter
how many years it's been.
Decades. Doesn't matter.
And I don't know if you remember when we worked at the Gold Nugget many years ago. The highlight, I remember having to work Saturday nights and then rushing to get home to watch wrestle, whatever it was, at 11 o'clock or at midnight. And
Chuck, I have to say, a real highlight was the afternoon that you brought Chief Jay Strongbow to my home. And he was sitting at our pool deck. And it was for a couple hours.
He was there, yeah. Unfortunately, it was. We left because it was getting very warm outside. But just a really,
it was a great visit.
A true gentleman, and I remember as a kid at working in the hotels that they would, Kirk and Harry, they would have wrestling in Atlantic Convention Hall.
Oh yeah.
Almost weekly, it seemed, and I remember every week they would rotate in and out. They would bring the big ads in, and you'd put them. In the doorways of the hotel so people can walk in and see everything that's going on in town. And fortunately for me, I was able to obtain a few tickets and get some very, very quality seats. And I remember one time, a lot of the wrestlers stayed in our places at the time. And I remember getting one of the big ads, Bruno Sammartino, was when I got him to autograph it. And unfortunately...
Oh, that would be nice.
Unfortunately, I don't know where that got to.
Chuck, the reason this came up, because Kirk and I, we were talking about our childhood, and we watched wrestling and we watched roller derby.
Yes.
And I have Judy Arnold from the
I know.
Philadelphia Warriors coming up next.
I used to watch roller derby, but I really was a pretty big wrestling fan. It was great. I mean, it was.
And, our parents and our grandparents also loved wrestling, and it didn't matter female or male parents and grandparents. They loved it.
Can't replicate it, but I will tell you that what I do need to get replicated here is the fact, because I'm standing with Kirk and
you were asking for something you missed.
No, I mean
you didn't show.
I had a vow. I was out of town. I was traveling.
You had an excused absence.
So the way I look at it is originally 8 cookies. That was where it started. What happens is if you don't pay a debt.
Oh, you're compounding it.
If you don't pay a debt, you're obligated to pay interest.
Well, why did Nancy have the debt?
It wasn't. It was Kirk's debt. I don't remember because I was right and you were wrong. Or Kirk, you guys were definitely wrong on some topic. And
you remember the rules were you had to be present.
So now what we'll do, Kirk, because Harry is out next week, I'm going to be very generous, and I'm only going to require a dozen. Okay, we can make it actually a baker's dozen.
Six came.
Eight.
Yeah, I got 9.
No, 8.
Chuck went baker's. He didn't just go dozen. He went baker's dozen.
8,
he went 13.
Don't forget the interest, and there's a penalty, and there's tax, and if you have for Harry and Kirk,
this is why Mr. Trump is suggesting that we have to take action.
Let's
against
seriously speaking.
Kind of
if you, and I don't know if you know this or not, but if you do not take, if you're 70 and a half and you do not take your required minimum distribution, there is a specific amount you have to take from your IRA account. If you do not take that distribution the year it's required, the government will impose a 50. It's a 50% penalty on what the distribution is. So if your draw was $10,000 and you missed it for whatever particular reason,
so in other words, you're benevolent.
You're paying a $5,000 penalty.
You're benevolent, and 13 cookies is like a joy to have to make them.
I think that's more than reasonable, and I don't think Nancy's going to have any particular problem with it. But that's okay, Kirk, because Harry's off next week, and we'll be back together the following week.
I just got a very important text message that the great Pam Malamut makes great cookies.
She does, but
you've kept this a secret for all these years, Chuck. Every Tuesday for 26 years, and I am the Cupid that I take a lot of responsibility for bringing these two wonderful people together, Kirk.
When I can get when
I really do.
The next time I'll ask my wife. The next time she makes cookies, I'll see what she can arrange. But they might never get to the studio.
In other words, Mr. Big's going to have cookies all over his face.
No, I'm pretty
good.
No, I'm pretty good, Harry. Actually, at that. So, anyway, I'm glad you guys had a lot of fun. It was quite entertaining.
Who was your favorite wrestler of all time?
Rodney.
Rowdy Piper?
Yes.
Roddy Piper?
Yes. When he was wearing
because he wore the kilt?
The kilts. I mean,
the high socks? He would play the bagpipe.
It's just, I mean, it was, we had, I had a lot of fun. I mean,
I'm going to admit my favorite wrestler of all time, Bruno Sammartino.
Oh, well,
I just loved him.
I was very disappointed that he was, number 9 on the list?
Even worse than that.
Or 12, but that list is,
that list is bogus.
So anyway.
Shawn Michaels won? Now, there were some great ones left off and some nobodies that shouldn't even be on there, but that's just one list. I'm going to go to, that's the IGN list of the top 50 wrestlers of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Conover has just left the building. Kirk, thank you. Thanks for a great hour.
Kirk, don't forget, 8 plus 4 plus 1. Okay, we'll be waiting for you.
13.
Okay, thank you.
So, Chuck.
So, Harry, I'm glad that Kirk actually that you guys didn't have an opportunity to talk about what you're going to talk about, because it gives me an opportunity to, in fact, talk about sort of the same topic. So let's kind of take a step back here for a second. Last week, the market, responded pretty favorably. You think about it, we had a ton of economic, political news, and the earnings came fast and furious. I mean, right now, 60% of the S&P 500 companies have reported, and for the most part, they've either exceeded or beat expectations. And as a result of all that, I mean, and there's a lot of noise coming out of Washington. I mean, yesterday President Trump said, "Look, I want to break up. I'm thinking about breaking up the big banks," and so you take these tidbits of information, and the market unfortunately sometimes reacts, and the market did react yesterday. but came back very, very quickly, especially the big money center type banks. But what is happening here? The market is being driven, Harry, pretty much by earnings. First quarter continues to look strong. First quarter GDP, as you and Kirk were probably going to talk about, was pretty disappointing. We can get into that in a minute. So,
surprised.
I don't know if PK was right or wrong or indifferent with this, but the French elections kind of went the way that it was handicapped, and as a result, they go to what I'll call round two. And then on top of that,
it did go, as Pocket Kreskin said.
Okay, and then the tax the tax blueprint that Trump put out there. I mean, there's not a lot of information at this point in time. Investors are we're in the process of digesting all that. So when you take a look at it, Harry, sentiment did improve during the week. The S&P was up about 1.5%, as a result of all the positive news. So when you look at where we are year to date, the S&P is up about a little bit over 7. The Dow's up close to 7. The Nasdaq clearly the winner at up 13%, hitting a new all-time high yesterday. Euro stocks is up about 13%. And then what we talked about before, the MSCI emerging markets, because of what's happening with the pricing of commodities in particular, that market's up about 14%.
Chuck, sidebar before the first break, which we're going to go to in 10 seconds, but I want to stretch it to say the following. A very well-placed source, very close to Pam Malamut, just wrote me that the batch that I need to request, if indeed a request is even humanly possible, I don't want to be presumptuous, although I did bring you guys together in my estimation, is that Pam makes a delicious, what has been referred to me as plump chocolate chip cookie.
Harry, you have her phone number. Just send her a text.
Well, I want you to lobby for me.
Well, I'll do my best, but sometimes when it comes from an outsider, you get you have a.
You mean to tell? And I do have Pam's cell phone. You mean to tell me if
you write her a nice, juicy text message,
like I would really mean it,
like I really
sincere.
love you very much. You're the best. Yeah. Kind of like I would do for
Margie. But I won't
do
what I did with you. I won't play the card of bringing you two together because I feel that's. I can say it to you because you're my brother, but I would feel off. It would be off-putting saying that to Pam. I will just ask very nicely.
I think you might get a lot. I think you might get a lot done out of that, Harry.
This break is too short. It's only 90 seconds, so I don't have time to do it this break. But maybe the middle break, I will put that request out. We're going to come right back. Chuck Malamut is here. Chuck, if we could stretch you a couple of minutes of overtime today beyond what you usually do, I really would like to address Fitch downgrading the bonds issued on behalf of Stockton University. I have a better story than another friend of mine is telling about that right now because the state could not do it. Stockton couldn't do it, so the county had to step up there. So the reduction from A+ to A, to me, is not the end of the world. The project result, I think, is going to be great. So I think it's a downgrade. Clearly, I know it is, but I think there's more good news ultimately than bad news. But I want to get your take on that. And also, the President of the United States uttered the words that he's thinking about breaking up banks and also increasing the national gas tax. I can't imagine that markets are going to ignore that he said that. It didn't seem to matter yesterday. And that's on top of Chuck is going to give us the market update, which we really haven't done yet, consumer spending, tax reform. We're going to talk about the 0.7 GDP for the first quarter and our corporate tax cuts on the horizon. So as you can see, as always, with the official financial advisor, the best in the business, Chuck Malamut, I'm Hurley in the Morning. We have a lot of ground to cover. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
The WPG Talk Radio 104.1 newsletter is yet another way South Jersey's talk station keeps you informed. Get the latest South Jersey news, community events, information on fun contests, links to exclusive YouTube videos, and more delivered right to your inbox.
And then there's email. Email? I heard that's really neat.
It's free. To sign up for the WPG Talk Radio 104.1 newsletter, simply go to WPGTalkRadio.com.
Listen, this whole do-it-yourself thing is fine for some projects, but when it comes to window coverings, not so much.
Tell me about it. I did some do-it-yourself shades that are best described as uneven and twisted.
Yeah, I've seen them. That's why I'm going with budget blinds.
That's a style and service for every budget people, right?
Yeah, and that is for for real. Budget Blinds has no surprises pricing and a no questions asked warranty. The best in the business.
No surprises pricing and a no questions asked warranty.
No brainer, right?
So Budget Blinds comes in, measures everything, orders for you, then they install it all?
It's a beautiful thing. And now you can get up to $500 off on Signature Series window coverings.
Another no-brainer. Number, please.
855-BUDGET-BLINDS. Or go online to budgetblinds.com.
Call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS and get the experts to do it for you at a price that fits your budget.
Call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS now.
Offer good on selected products at participating independently owned and operated franchises only. Some restrictions may apply. Ask for details.
This is John O'Hurley, and you're listening to O'Hurley in the Morning.
Thank you very much. 20 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is here. A reminder for all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck and the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. All right, I just threw into the souffle about 4 other items, Chuck, that are not even on your list. So let's work your list first. We'll go to my list if we have time at the end of the hour. Continue with the market update.
All right, so I think we pretty much digested that.
Okay.
So now let's go on to let's look at GDP for a second. I think that's next, maybe.
Yeah, and consumer spending.
So despite a really, really tough quarter, consumer spending we think should rebound here. The first quarter GDP came in at 0.7%. Pretty much below consensus estimates.
What do you think? What was the estimate?
I think it was close to 2.
Yeah, I was really surprised at that.
And this is being put on the backs of the consumer because the consumption levels weren't what everyone had expected during the quarter. You had
people just took a break.
Well, household spending was down. You had a drop in motor vehicle purchases that didn't help. Inflation levels, and we've talked about this, has come back to a certain degree, so they've increased somewhat. Core personal consumption did increase to the 2% level. So, Harry, as we look ahead, we believe that consumer spending and overall growth will rebound in the coming quarters. I know that, we heard 4% was the number they threw out there. I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge to get there. I would be, quite frankly, pleased at this point in time we got back to 3, on a relatively short period of time. But I think what we're seeing, Harry, is that sort of the expanding it at 0.7%. The analyst estimates were higher, were actually 1%. I gave you bad information. The consumption levels went down. Slower growing inventories was another reason for the weak growth. But we did have a pretty big pickup in investments made by these corporations, and we think that's going to, in fact, help GDP on a go-forward basis. So, think about it. What have we talked about with the labor market for quite some time? The labor market, not here per se, but throughout most of the country, is really starting to tighten up. And as a result of that, the average hourly wages have been increasing. We think that's going to continue, and we're going to see very, very quickly what the April jobs report is. It's hard to believe it's now May 2nd. I can't, the month of April just flew by.
Really did.
In April, for the most part, for the marketplace, you had a fair amount of daily volatility, but the VIX, as we know it right now, is trading at all, basically, 10-year lows. It's under 10 at this point in time. So, the question at hand, and we haven't talked about this at all, your favorite folks are meeting and chatting, and the question is, what is the Fed going to do when they get to the June meeting?
Could the 0.7, could there be enough evidence to not increase rates at this time?
Harry, I'm not so sure about that, because all indications, and again, the tea leaves that they read are a little bit different than some of the tea leaves that we look at on a day-to-day basis. I have seen some projections and predictions that they're talking a possibility of 2 additional rate hikes in 2017, with the first one coming in June. So you think about it, if that in fact happens, and we would have had literally within the course of a year, 100 basis point movement.
Yep.
Again, assuming a 25 basis point increase each time, because remember way back when it wasn't always 25 basis points.
I posed the question just to be fair, but I already have built into my own belief system that there is a political agenda and a very aggressive desire to raise interest rates when there was no appetite for more than 8 years to do it. So I say it's 100% that it's going to happen no matter what numbers come out.
Yeah, so let's kind of shift back here to earnings for a second, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
One of the drivers
I'm putting an order in for chocolate cookies. I don't mind at all.
Well, I'm saying you're pretty busy on that phone.
I'm very busy.
One of the drivers of the market at this point in time is what's happening with first quarter earnings. So they have, I think that if we use the word impressive, I think that's probably a good summation as to what's happened, and that is, relative to expectations. So as we look at what has been reported so far, we're seeing a much higher than average earnings per share beat, so to speak, of 6.3% against some of the really, really high expectations that have been put in place for some years. So you talk about revenue. I mean, it's some of the things that we've talked about. Every time we talk about earnings, for the most part, revenue seems to be tracking well and has registered the fastest year-over-year growth in the last 5 years. So you think about this, and you try to set aside everything that you're seeing and watching on TV as to what's coming out of Washington. You get a real good understanding of what's driving the market. So think about for a minute, Harry, where we were with energy. It was so easy to beat what happened, Q1 of a year ago. But the overall breadth of the market, putting energy aside, has been very good as well. Operating leverage, that also is impressed. First quarter incremental margins are at their highest level in 6 years. So, if you look, the greatest beats that we've seen so far have been in these cyclical sectors like energy, consumer discretionary, which looks like it has a fair amount of room to go, materials and industrials. And remember the one thing that's been discussed. We talk about repatriation of bringing money back into the U.S. We talked about the U.S. infrastructure. So if we're able to get any of that done, I think you're going to see some pretty significant movements. Albeit everything that's happening down, not several hundred miles from us at this point in time.
Let's take our bottom of the hour break. When we come back, we're going to tackle tax reform. We're going to talk about our corporate tax cuts on the horizon, and then we'll see if Chuck can stay a few minutes extra overtime in our final segment to address the president's recent comments as recently as yesterday, talking about potentially breaking up banks. He said he's receptive to potentially increasing the national gas tax, and also want to get a local comment from a financial expert about Fitch downgrading the bonds issued on behalf of Stockton University for the Stockton University campus. We're going to take a brief time out. This portion of Early in the Morning is brought to us in part by the exclusive golf club to the Early in the Morning program. Uh-oh, did I get an answer back? I already have. Oh, my gosh. Chuck, I got an answer back that quick. I'm so excited. I can't do the commercial now for Harbor Pines. I wrote the great Pam Malamut, and I like her answer because her answer is very promising, but it's not definitive. It's I think I can accommodate. Oh, I love it. That's looking good, though. That's better than no. So I'm going to stay eternally optimistic. I hope that maybe when I ended it, Chuck, I thought the most clever thing of my whole request, yes, the bit emoji of me with carrying a caveman club saying "me hungry," I thought that was a nice touch. But I thought ending it with best regards and high hopes. I thought that was a pretty good touch. All right, I put an order in for plump chocolate chip cookies, because a very near and dear friend to Pam Malamut texted me during this hour to tell me that Pam makes these incredible cookies. So we'll see how it goes. I'll let everybody know. We'll have an official taste testing if my request is approved. Harbor Pines Golf Club is the official, the exclusive golf club for the Hurley in the Morning program, also for the upcoming 10th annual Hurley in the Morning Golf Open charity event. We thank Chuck for all of his partnership for all 10 years. He's provided all the golf balls, financial contributions, and a lot of great support that you don't even hear about. So we thank Chuck for that, and we can't wait, and we hope you'll be a part of it. A few more foursomes have signed up. We're over 30 foursomes now. So if you want to play, you need to get a hold of me in the very near future, because we're basically nearing sellout as we speak. Also at Harbor Pines Golf Club at 500 St. Andrews Drive in Egg Harbor Township, owned by the legendary Gerwick's family, is this Saturday the Kentucky Derby Party, which is always just a great time. From 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., you can get out your big hats. You can place your bets. It's a member and resident mixer that you won't want to miss. Kentucky Derby 2017 this Saturday at Harbor Pines Golf Club. Happy hour is May 12th. That's going to be outstanding, reduced adult beverage prices, wonderful hors d'oeuvres and food items, live music, select dinner specials. You can call the grill room to reserve extension 19 at 609-927-0006. Mother's Day is fast approaching, Sunday, May 14th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the murder mystery dinner is May 19th, 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., and it's a time to cheer, time to murder at Harbor Pines. You can go to the website, harborpines.com, for more details, or dial 609-927-0006. Back with Chuck Malamut, our official financial advisor, in 2 minutes. This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza, Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department, selection, and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service, parts, and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
You've been lied to. Lied to by corrupt Washington politicians and the Wall Street propaganda machine. Hi, I'm Inc. magazine best-selling author Brett Kitchen, and I want to give you a free copy of my brand new book, Wealth Beyond Wall Street, because we all know another market crash could be right around the corner. After losing 35% in my IRA in the crash years ago, I said enough, and since then I discovered a way to grow money potentially double digits, reduce taxes dramatically, and also have my money protected when the next stock market crash hits. When the next market crash hits, you lose nothing. Call Wealth Beyond Wall Street now to get your free copy, and talk with a specialist to discover this little-known strategy to get potential double-digit growth during good years and never lose when the next stock market crash hits, all while building a tax-advantaged retirement. Call 1-800-920-8484 to discover this asset that people like Walt Disney and JCPenney use to grow wealthy. Plus, get one of just 97 free books left. We even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call 800-920-8484. 1-800-920-8484. That's 1-800-920-8484.
Hi, this is James Darren, and you're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
Hey, thanks very much. 34 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is here. Reminder, for all of your financial planning needs, turn to the official, the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, the Hurley in the Morning Charity Foundation, Chuck Malamut and his team, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. Chuck is in his 26th year here on the program. And how many are you? Over 30 years in your business, right?
1986.
31.
Yeah. Long time, Harry.
I remember when that news
That's
broke.
Fateful news.
Chuck said, "I have to see you," and then he told me the news.
I thought you were going to cry, Harry. You were crying, but that's okay.
Hey, listen, I was upset. I loved you as a boss and my friend. I was very sad, but I was very happy for you. And obviously, as you usually do, you made the right decision because you were great at what you were doing. But the past 30 years, you've been amazing. The Malamut Group is in Northfield at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. Tax reform?
Great topic, Harry.
Yep.
So, you think about what has happened here in a relatively short period of time. President Trump put his blueprint out last week, and it was pretty much, the number one is he had a number of things he wanted to accomplish. One, reduce corporate tax levels and look to grow the economy, and
corporate and personal.
Yeah, but he's focusing more at this point. I mean, yeah, but the number one concern is corporate tax, because if he can get the corporate tax down, then as we talked about GDP, a little bit earlier this morning, I think it's going to have obviously a very, very positive impact to GDP. So. Now, the one thing that I think we need to be concerned about is that the administration is okay with having somewhat of a modest increase to the deficit in order to achieve the goal of reducing taxes. Now, because it was floated out there last week, but there was not a lot of specifics with respect to the actual tax reform. I guess if you use the word hazy, I think that's probably a good way to identify it. Hazy, but with a fair amount of pro-growth action. So I think what happened was, because there wasn't a lot of specifics with what they announced last week, it looks like the president is probably going to try to negotiate with Congress.
What do you think about this $1.1 trillion continuing resolution? Democrats are euphoric. I mean, they're celebrating it, which ought to tell you something. There are a lot of conservatives that aren't very happy about it. They thought that certain things would be defunded. They haven't been. Obviously, there's critical military, additional funding for military, both for the military at the human resource level, but also, I think, a recognition that I heard a general over the weekend, Chuck, say that we are making such a difference in defeating ISIS. We are bombing them literally to pieces, and that we're running low on bombs and things. So the additional military apparatus funding component is also very big. But what do you think? How do you think markets will shake out this continuing resolution?
I think, Harry, again, the markets don't necessarily focus on what comes from Washington. I think the markets have focused more on what companies are earning and what companies can potentially earn. Now, will this in fact have some implications on a go-forward basis? That's anybody's guess. But I think the concern is, if you can grow a nation that is stronger financially, and a nation that also has the ability to defend itself more so than it could before, I can't imagine the market looking at those two events and basically saying, well, that's not good for the markets. You know what I'm saying? I think it is good. So the question is, will Congress and the president be able to strike a deal? And if that is in fact the case, Harry, it's going to take, I think, a few months before you see specific legislation coming out. The question is, can Trump at this point in time in Congress, move the focus from overall tax reform to potentially targeted tax cuts? Which could be easier to pass. Because think about what happened with healthcare, and I mean, they're coming back. It sounds like, for another bite of the apple, so to speak. But if they come in and say, okay, rather than doing a complete overhaul at this point in time, why don't we go ahead and look to target some specific tax cuts, at least initially?
When you say that the markets are not really looking at what's coming out of Washington, if the President of the United States says in an interview he's examining revival of the 1933 Glass-Steagall Act, and that he is considering breaking up banks. And we're talking some giant Wall Street banks, and pushing the Depression-era sort of environment and laws that separated consumer and investment banking. I'd have to think that markets would pay attention to that.
Well, Harry, look, they if you take a look at it, and again, we don't like to focus on what happens on a day-to-day basis, and certainly not on a minute-to-minute basis.
No,
but yes,
but that's pretty big, though.
Initially, the money center banks, the sector, did sell off, but in relatively short order, they came right back. And they actually were positive for the day.
Good.
So you have to. I think it's more than just reading a headline. I think what happens is, he'll float an idea out there to see if it's going to resonate.
Yeah.
And this was certainly not one of the top 10 initiatives he was looking to accomplish as he was elected to be our president. So
I totally agree. And then on top of that, how about this one though? How about interested in potentially agreeing to a hike in the national gas tax?
Yeah, that now, Harry,
I didn't like that.
No, I didn't like that at all. And we
already got our face kicked in with what they did here in Trenton at the state level. Now we're going to get it at the national level.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be taken very well, but that could in fact help energy and could help oil prices. So it's. Sometimes there's some madness to what is thrown out there. There's no doubt about it.
Everything he does that even seems unconventional, it seems to turn out right. And it's been very interesting to see an unfiltered citizen president as opposed to the calculating every tortured possible political ramification. This is very different than what we've had at any juncture, not in our lifetime, but ever in the history of the country. It's an unfiltered approach that's very, very different. Chuck, there was a third item that I wanted to squeeze in, and anything you want to close with, the time is yours. But Fitch has downgraded the bonds issued on behalf of Stockton University. Let me just, in a preamble, just say something very quickly. I've been having a disagreement with a really smart person in financial circles, let me just put it that way, because he's incensed that the county, like a school teacher, county, is doing this kind of financial transaction. But I've been trying to explain to him the state is in no position to finance these bonds, to float them. The Stockton isn't, especially with the debacle at Showboat. The county was the only entity with a credit rating that could do this. And through the Atlantic County Improvement Authority, they floated these bonds for a Stockton University Atlantic City campus. For those who don't know, even though they have 1,800 acres, and it sounds like they got all the room in the world to build, as Chuck knows, living in Galloway Township, you can have a certain amount of land, but there could be permitted and not permitted uses that can happen. Stockton University, and I've heard the Stockton president say it, they cannot build any more campuses, any more housing, any more type, additions at Pomona. So that other land, they own it, but they're not to build on it. In addition to that, I think a footprint in Atlantic City is very good for Stockton. So I've been in favor of this. The county has done, Chuck, such a great job keeping its borrowing capacity that this, to me, was a prudent investment. Ultimately, I believe it's a safe one because the county, even though this goes from A+ to A, I don't consider this that risky at all. I'm just saying this from a layperson's point of view. I'm not recommending these bonds or anything when they go and become available in a couple of months. I think June 27th, the week of June 27th. But I think, Chuck, this is great. I think it is great for Stockton, which can initially go horizontal in Atlantic City and maybe ultimately vertical, because I just want to throw a little early in the morning tease that I think that Stockton will go vertical, maybe at Boston and Pacific Avenue, and you've never heard me say that until now, but I believe that that's going to happen. I think this is a good deal. I think it was great that Levinson stepped up. I understand that Fitch then downgraded a stable outlook to negative and A+ down to A, but I think the end result is very positive. That's my narrative.
Well, look, Harry, first, this is a revenue bond. It's not a general obligation.
Yeah.
I think
some of them are, though. Some of them are, not this one, but some of them. Out of the 213, some of them are general obligation.
But I think this is probably a revenue bond for the most part. I mean, I don't know the specifics, but what I do know, Harry, is that movement a notch from an A+ to an A in the state of New Jersey,
it's like
in South Jersey in particular, understanding how many downgrades there have been for the state of New Jersey general obligations over the last 3 to 5 years, I consider it a non-event.
I do too. Let me read this into the record, Chuck, so that everybody is acquainted with what is going on here. Fitch Ratings, and I'm going right to their report on the Business Wire. Fitch Ratings has assigned an A rating to the following bonds issued on behalf of Stockton University. $211 million of New Jersey Educational Facilities Authority, EFA, revenue and refunding bonds.
Yeah, so back that up. I got revenue, which is based upon the tuition.
Fair enough. That's right.
Okay.
Very smart. That's why you're the man. $70 million, Atlantic County Improvement Authority, Stockton University general obligation lease revenue bonds.
Right. So then you have the county backing $70 million.
Correct.
Okay.
And that is your breakdown. It looks like the EFA bonds will sell via negotiation on or about the week of June 27, Margie's birthday. Proceeds will refund outstanding EF bonds for savings 2006F, 2007G, 2008A. Fund about $25 million of capital projects at the main Galloway campus and pay costs of issuance. Let me put the one other thing out there. The ACIA bonds, that's the Atlantic County Improvement Authority bonds, will sell via negotiation on or about the week of July 11th, and they're going to pay the construction costs of a residence hall and a parking garage to be constructed in Atlantic City and pay the cost of issuance. In addition, Fitch has downgraded $203 million of EFA bonds issued on behalf of Stockton to A from A+, and the rating outlook has been revised to negative from stable. But when I read, that sounds terrible to us lay people, but Chuck, when I read that was only because of the new debt that wasn't there. But I think this is debt that's worth servicing, and that the end result is going to be a fabulous Stockton footprint in Atlantic City. So I'm very bullish on this move. I know a friend of mine he's almost on the warpath about it, thinks that the county has no business in this. But here's the thing then, you have to be then against the project completely then, because I think we have to agree the state couldn't fund it, and the Stockton University itself couldn't fund it.
Well, yeah, Harry, but it sounds like a portion of the first tranche that you alluded to, the revenue bond, was a refi. It's not necessarily putting all that debt back onto the county, because it sounds you went through it. It's going to take out certain tranches.
Some of it will. That's correct.
Yeah, so it's not
all new.
It's not all new debt.
Yeah, that's true. But here's the thing too. And the county was talking about this, and Stockton for well over a year. The county was really the only entity that could fund that. Don't we agree, Chuck? That,
no,
I'm not saying you don't, but to anybody that's doubting this, you have to either be against the project or you have to say the state couldn't do it and Stockton couldn't do it. So
I think you and Kirk actually at the beginning of your hour before you got on the pure entertainment. You chatted a little bit about the resurgence of Atlantic City, and
this could be a big part of that.
And yeah, for sure. And I think the county did the absolute right thing. The city of Atlantic City, absolutely not. The state of New Jersey, very, very questionable. Galloway Township, doubtful. So
there was no one else that could have done this, and I know it is very rare. I actually did a LexisNexis search. I couldn't find a county in the country that ever funded a university, a state-owned, if you will, university, and that the county actually funded a major campus. I haven't found it anywhere, because that usually would be floated either by the university, or typically a lot of them are flush with cash, or it would have been floated by the state.
Yeah, so this is unusual. I mean, hats off to Denny and his staff. I mean, they did a lot of good, for Stockton. I mean, and look, the university, and it is truly a university now. It's no longer a college.
It's true.
They have some great curriculum, great programs, and they have obviously a wonderful hospitality program. They have a great business school, the school has really grown up, or the university. It's and right in front of our eyes over the last 15, 20 years. And
Chuck, whether this news is a year old or 5 minutes old, going from A+ to A didn't rock anybody's sensibilities.
No, when you get a
Harry Hundred would take an A.
When you get a piece of debt. And you go, and it goes through, 4 or 5 notches immediately, then you have a problem. But to me, going from an A+ to an A it's a non-event. And if anyone, it might cost a little bit more to get the deal done because of the rate structure, but it's not like you're going from an A+ to a BBB-. There's a lot of steps in between that. So, and certainly not at the level where, and again, I'm not bashing the state of New Jersey, but I mean,
can you imagine
you've had 9 or 10 downgrades now.
If the
it wouldn't get look, it would be very, very expensive. Maybe, and who knows?
Maybe undoable.
Who knows if it could have gotten done?
Yeah,
I think it could get done. I mean, I know that you were chatting yesterday a little bit about the state transportation, New Jersey State Transportation Trust Fund.
Yes,
and and what has happened or what has not happened to that, and that has been somewhat disastrous, I guess is the best way to call it, because that bond is not a revenue bond. That the New Jersey State Transportation Trust Fund is paid or receives revenue based on an appropriation made by the state of New Jersey. So it's not a revenue bond. It's not a GO bond. So they're basically they're out there begging for the state to pay them. So you get, and a lot of people don't recognize that. I mean, and you have to look at why that bond trades where it trades versus a traditional revenue versus traditional GO. I mean, there's certainly, it's amazing, Harry, and we're kind of running short on time, but a lot of your listeners, and this is no disrespect to any of them, a lot of our clients truly think they have a handle on the equity market. They understand it. And I don't think a lot can be said. I don't think they can say the same thing about debt and about the fixed income market. There's a lot of nuances, and I would venture to say that 9 out of 10 of your listeners had absolutely no idea how the New Jersey State Transportation Trust Fund was compensated.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very good point. Or many people don't know how Stockton Atlantic City campus will actually be able to be built because the County of Atlantic stepped up and floated the bonds that the state nor the university were in the financial position to do. And I think ultimately when we look at this, it's always easy to look at something before we know. But hindsight, I think, is going to be very kind that this was a very pivotal moment where the Stockton University footprint grew substantially and really took the next step in terms of being a university with a full Atlantic City sort of campus and college life, college town in Atlantic City. You could live in Atlantic City and participate in, who knows, maybe a hotel management school, crew at Bader Field. I see so much potential.
Yeah,
Chuck.
The other thing, Harry, that we kind of chatted about, I know we're getting off, well, we're on the topic of business and finance. Yeah. It's just more local, and it's sort of off script here, but you drive, again, another non-event we'll call it coming out of the Atlanta Club, where a second group came in and tried to build a water park.
I never believed that was going to happen. I actually went on record saying that I'm not going to tout and celebrate these announcements until it's absolutely true. Like, for example, Jim Allen, and you know Jim Allen, and I know Jim Allen. What he says he's going to do, he's going to do.
That's going to happen.
That's done. That's as good as done. I knew that thing wasn't going to happen, but I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. I think that winds up being part of Stockton University.
I think it should be part of Stockton University.
Which would be incredible. It would be incredible.
You think about the housing that they potentially add. You have a you have a facility that you ran for years that could be developed as a health club, so to speak.
Without a doubt.
A
Restaurants.
true gymnasium. You have a fair amount of public space in that building for classroom.
Yep.
So I think, and again,
you could actually become a hotel management school.
I'm just looking from the outside. I know they're building, dorms in the new structure, but
you already got the rooms.
I think it would be. I don't know the inner workings of the potential deal and how much Stockton can take on at this point in time, but I think it would be sort of a no-brainer.
I would have done it. I would have done the deal if I were them. Maybe they were once bitten, twice shy because of Showboat, but I would have done this deal. I would have done it. The price, I think, could have been right, and it would be an amazing part of their campus because they're going to be right there anyhow. So I think that would be very strong. Chuck, we've got a hard break because I have to get our break in. I want to thank you for the overtime.
Harry, you're welcome.
Good to be with you. Chuck Malamut.
Looking forward to the next hour.
Yes, sir. Me too. Judy Arnold is on deck. And we'll be calling Judy. I can't thank her enough for waking up in the 6 o'clock hour her time, early 6 o'clock hour her time to do it. Chuck Malamut for all of your financial planning needs, 609-383-2010. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlanticare. Healthcare you can believe in.
When you have joint pain, one of the last things you might feel like doing is moving. But just like the Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz, inactivity can cause our joints to stiffen even more. The right kind of movement for your specific needs can improve joint stability and muscle strength, which can reduce the need for pain medications. Shedding extra pounds is one of the best ways to reduce osteoarthritis pain. We can put 3 to 5 times our body weight on our joints just by walking or going upstairs. For every pound we lose, we take about 3 to 5 pounds of stress off our hips, our knees, and our ankles. So losing 20 pounds could actually take 100 pounds of pressure off of our joints. Some of the best exercises are swimming, cycling, and elliptical training. Our bodies were meant to move, so find a way to stay active. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlanticare. Healthcare you can believe in.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
If your dreams include a spring makeover, now's the perfect time to think about a home equity line of credit from Ocean First Bank. From home improvement projects to paying off debt or finally booking that dream vacation, we're offering a great low rate for your big plans.
Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Opportunity Lender.
On Saturday, May 13th, sip, savor, and celebrate at Resorts Casino Hotel in Atlantic City during Clink, a resort signature wine and food festival. Sample over 40 wines from renowned wine creators and boutique vintners, and delight in sampling the delicious tapas paired to complement them, plus enjoy a live DJ. Tickets are still available at Resorts box office and through Ticketmaster.com. Visit resortsac.com for more information. Don't miss out on one of the best wine events in New Jersey. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You've been lied to. Lied to by corrupt Washington politicians and the Wall Street propaganda machine. Hi, I'm Inc. magazine best-selling author Brett Kitchen, and I want to give you a free copy of my brand new book, Wealth Beyond Wall Street, because we all know another market crash could be right around the corner. After losing 35% in my IRA in the crash years ago, I said enough, and since then I discovered a way to grow money potentially double digits, reduce taxes dramatically, and also have my money protected when the next stock market crash hits. When the next market crash hits,
when we come back in just a few minutes, we're approaching 9 o'clock. Judy Arnold, live from the West Coast. We're going to talk about her career as the most celebrated star figure, man or woman, in, she might even say Jim Trotter, and I love Jim Trotter, don't get me wrong, my second favorite roller derby star, but Judy Arnold, literally the most celebrated star, man or woman, in roller derby history. And then the incredible story of how she called it, she gave up the lucrative contract, all of the perks and privileges and stardom and all of that because, quote unquote, she found the truth. And we will explore what that truth means in the next hour. It's going to be very exciting. We'll talk her career and then what led to the rest of her life. We'll be back.
104.1 WPGG Atlantic City, WSJO 104.9 HD2 Egg Harbor City. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave Anthony. They'll talk by phone today. President Trump and Russian President Putin. It'll be their first conversation since Russia condemned the U.S. missile strike on a Syrian airbase. It's possible the president could someday hold talks with North Korea's leader. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
Hours after the U.S. flew 2 supersonic B-1B Lancer bombers over South Korea in a training drill, North Korea called the drill a provocation that puts the two countries on the brink of a nuclear